Hi all. This is Tanya. It's me, Tanya. Excuse me. I have been under the weather, so excuse my voice and what have you. In this speech, I want others to think more deeply, and I want them to want to affect change when it comes to injustice. So, exoneration. What does it really mean to those who have been wrongfully convicted of crimes that they did not commit? How many more convictions will be overturned because there was evidence that would have exonerated those suspected of crimes at the time of the incidents? Once again, we have a group of men of color being released from prison after years of incarceration for crimes that they did not commit. So the problem is wrongful convictions. Recently, we've had 5 black men and then another 3 black men that have been released from prison due to wrongful convictions. The Innocence Project and innocenceproject.org states a statistic that 62% of DNA exonerees are black. These men, along with many others, have been locked up for decades. They didn't spend a few days in jail. They were locked up for years for crimes that they did not commit. So, their lives were taken away from them. These guys were teenagers. They were teenagers. And they were put away at ages 15, 16, or 17. The Central Park 5, now known as the Exonerated 5, are subjects of the Netflix series When They See Us. And these men were convicted of rape and sexual assault as teenagers. And they were released as grown men. They didn't commit the crime, but they did time, and the evidence was withheld. Like the evidence was withheld that would have let those guys go home. And it's the same thing more recently with the 3 young men that were incarcerated in the 80s. They were locked up for 36 years. That's 3 decades plus. Almost 4 decades. That's almost 40 years in prison for a crime that you didn't commit. Then the other part of that is that when they get out of jail, when they get out of prison, they're getting out and they're coming into a world that they've only watched change via television or reading a newspaper. So like they went in as teenagers, so like their education was stunted. They didn't get to go to prom, they didn't get to go to college, they didn't apply to college. And at least not like we do. They didn't get to make a life for themselves and get married and start a family. All of that is held up and may not have even come to fruition if they had not been exonerated. So how many of you in this class are close to those ages? Because if you're a freshman, then you're at least 18 years old. So that was a few years ago for you. Like, can you imagine being taken away from your parents, taken away from your home, taken away from everything that you've ever known, and put in prison for something that you did not do? So my question is, who is held accountable? And my solution to this problem is that there must be accountability. If the acts of the police officers, the detectives, the prosecutors, the judges, those that are involved in the wrongful convictions, if they're made to be a crime, if we had legislation that decided that this is a crime, if you wrongfully convict somebody, you knowingly wrongfully convict someone, then you are committing a crime. I believe that change might come. For those who are found to have tainted cases. So if you have a case and it's found that the person was wrongfully convicted on your watch, and that you withheld evidence, then every case that you've ever tried before and after that case should be reviewed. And I know that, it's long hours and it's a lot of money involved, because now someone's going to have to do it. But like the college students are doing it. The Innocence Project is not the only program like this that's going back and handling these things. And if you are found guilty, you should not have the luxury of a federal facility. You should go to regular prison, regular state prison, just like everybody else, just like the people that you put in prison. Simple. Because if you're held accountable, that might deter you from doing these things again. It might help you be a bit more honest. But if they take your law license, if they take your license to practice law, then you can't hurt anybody else. And then you should also pay restitution. You took someone's livelihood. You took someone's life. You took their life away. And although these people do get a certain amount of money as restitution from the government, it shouldn't just be on the government. It should be on everybody that facilitated this happening. So from the police officers and detectives to the prosecutor, everybody involved, it should hit everybody. Not just, the government saying, oh, we made a mistake, and still letting that person run for office and be elected as the prosecutor, or appointing them as the prosecutor and letting them keep their job. No, they should lose their job and they should go to jail. So I worked in the criminal justice system. I witnessed police officers and attorneys and judges that have come to jail. And the fear in their eyes when they came to jail, when those doors closed behind them and it got real, it was real. It was definitely real. No one wants to go to prison. Definitely not. Those of us, I'm retired, but I definitely didn't want to be in Orange. Nobody that works in law enforcement on any side of it wants to come to jail, especially if you took part in putting people in jail. You don't want to be in jail, because now you got to face those people that you put in jail. Who wants to do that? No one. So the positive outcome of this would be that it would deter others from practicing law and doing their jobs in this way. The negative part of it would be that it is time consuming, and that the time that it would take for all of this to actually happen, for legislation to go through, and for cases to be reviewed and whatnot, that these guys and these men and women would still be locked up while this process is going through. So if there are tainted cases, then everybody that you put in jail and there was probably something that could have kept them out of jail can be released with a new trial date as they review it, and then let it sort itself out from there. And then there still should be restitution. So according to the Innocence Project, website, 365 people were exonerated who were wrongfully convicted since 1989 based on DNA. The Innocence Project isn't the only organization that has been working to exonerate those who have been wrongfully convicted, but they are the most noted. I truly believe that when all of those who do not honor their positions as law enforcement officers, from the police to the judges, are held accountable for their actions, it will deter others from following in their footsteps. When we take away their livelihoods, their freedoms, their finances, it should put things in perspective. These people have gone on to live great lives because of the lies, and something should be done about it. Lock them up, take away their royalties, and allow them to experience what they caused others to experience. It has to be more than civil lawsuits that drag on and on in court. There has to be immediate accountability. Thank you.